Her tiny hand trembled, clutching the hospital gown. Emma, barely 9, sat on the cold examination table, her wide eyes darting across the sterile room. How could a child, so small, carry a secret so unimaginable? In the small town of Willow Creek, Colorado, whispers spread like wildfire. It was 2025, and the local hospital had never seen anything like it. Emma Harper, a fourth grader who loved drawing rainbows and collecting shiny pebbles, was pregnant. The news hit the community like a thunderbolt, fracturing trust and igniting fear. Parents clutched their children closer, and neighbors exchanged hushed theories. How could this happen? Who was responsible? And why was Emma, a girl who still believed in fairy tales, facing a reality so cruel? Dr. Sarah Coleman, a 35-year-old pediatrician, was assigned to Emma's case. With her warm brown eyes and steady hands, Sarah had built a reputation for calming even the most frightened children. But this case shook her to her core. She'd seen trauma before broken bones, fevers, tearful parents, but nothing like this. As she entered the examination room, her heart sank at the sight of Emma, small and fragile, her blonde pigtails frayed from nervous twisting. "Hi, Emma," Sarah said softly, kneeling to meet her gaze. "I'm Dr. Sarah. We're going to figure this out together." "Okay." Emma nodded, her lips trembling, but her eyes held a spark of trust. Sarah's chest tightened. This wasn't just a medical mystery. It was a child's life unraveling. The hospital buzzed with tension. Nurses whispered in break rooms, and administrators debated protocols. Sarah's initial tests confirmed the impossible. Emma was indeed pregnant, just weeks along. But the ultrasound revealed something even more shocking, a rare medical anomaly that defied explanation. The pregnancy wasn't typical. It was tied to a condition so unusual that Sarah had to consult specialists across the country. The discovery wasn't just medical, it hinted at a deeper, more human story, one that would challenge everything Sarah believed about love, family, and justice. Emma's mother, Laura Harper, was a single parent in her late 20s, a quiet woman who worked double shifts at a diner. Her face was etched with exhaustion and guilt when she arrived at the hospital. "I didn't know," Laura whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "How could I not know?" Sarah placed a hand on her shoulder, sensing the weight of a mother's love tangled with unbearable pain. Laura's partner, Jamie, a soft-spoken trans woman in her early 30s, stood by her side, gripping Laura's hand tightly. Their love was evident, but so was their fear. The town wasn't kind to their relationship. And now, with Emma's condition, scrutiny would only grow. Sarah dove into research, poring over medical journals late into the night. The anomaly suggested a genetic quirk, but the real question was how Emma's pregnancy had gone unnoticed. Laura swore Emma hadn't been exposed to abuse, but Sarah couldn't rule anything out. She met with social workers, who began investigating the family's life. The deeper they dug, the more questions arose. Emma's school reported she'd been withdrawn lately, her once vibrant drawings replaced with dark, abstract scribbles. A teacher mentioned a friend. Emma talked about a mysterious figure no one could identify. As days passed, Sarah grew closer to Emma, using art to connect. "Draw me something happy," Sarah said during one session, handing Emma a sketch pad. Emma hesitated, then drew a rainbow over a house with 3 figures: herself, Laura, and Jamie. "This is my family," she whispered. Sarah's heart swelled, but the drawing also held Chloe's shadow in the corner, barely noticeable, shaped like a person. Was it a metaphor, or something more? The hospital became a battleground of emotions. Protesters gathered outside, some demanding answers, others hurling accusations at Laura and Jamie. The couple's relationship, already a point of contention in conservative Willow Creek, became a lightning rod. Sarah overheard nurses gossiping, their words laced with prejudice. A kid like that, in a home like that. No wonder. One muttered. Sarah's blood boiled, but she stayed focused on Emma. She wasn't just a doctor now, she was Emma's advocate. By the end of the first week, Sarah uncovered a lead. The anomaly wasn't just medical. It pointed to a rare syndrome linked to environmental factors. Willow Creek's old factory, shuttered years ago, had left traces of chemicals in the soil. Could this be connected? Sarah's mind raced, but so did her heart. Emma's trust in her was growing, and with it, a responsibility to uncover the truth not just for Emma, but for every child in the town. Sarah's nights blurred into days, her desk littered with coffee cups and medical papers. The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as she studied Emma's case. The syndrome, known as precocious puberty with complications, was rare but not impossible. It could explain the pregnancy, triggered by hormonal imbalances possibly linked to environmental toxins. But the bigger question loomed: what had caused this in Emma specifically? She met with Dr. Michael Torres, a toxicologist from Denver, who reviewed the data. Willow Creek's factory used to dump chemicals into the river, he said, adjusting his glasses. Heavy metals, endocrine disruptors, theory still in the soil. Kids like Emma, playing outside, could have been exposed. Sarah's stomach churned. The factory had been a town secret, buried under years of silence. If it was the cause, the implications were massive, not just for Emma, but for every family in Willow Creek. Meanwhile, Emma's life at home was unraveling. Laura and Jamie faced relentless harassment. Notes were left on their doorstep, calling them unfit parents. Jamie, who had transitioned years ago, bore the brunt of the town's cruelty. They think I'm the problem, Jamie told Sarah during a hospital visit, her voice breaking, like I could hurt Emma. Sarah saw the love in Jamie's eyes, the way she braided Emma's hair with care. This wasn't a broken home, it was a family fighting to stay whole. Sarah arranged for Emma to meet with a child psychologist, Dr. Rachel Lee, a kind woman in her 40s with a knack for connecting with kids. During their sessions, Emma began to open up. I have a secret friend, she admitted, clutching a crayon. He said he'd keep me safe. Rachel exchanged a glance with Sarah. Was this friend real, or a child's way of coping? The drawings grew darker, jagged lines. A figure in a hooded jacket. Sarah's instincts screamed that this friend was key, but pushing Emma too hard could shut her down. The hospital's investigation deepened. Sarah and the social worker, Clara, interviewed Emma's teachers and neighbors. A pattern emerged. Emma had been spending time near the old factory site, a place kids were drawn to despite warnings. It was a crumbling relic, overgrown with weeds, where children played hide-and-seek. Sarah visited the site, her boots sinking into the damp earth. The air felt heavy, tainted. She collected soil samples, her hands shaking as she sealed them in bags. Back at the hospital, Emma's condition stabilized, but the pregnancy posed risks. Sarah consulted with an obstetrician, Dr. Elena Martinez, who warned that continuing the pregnancy could endanger Emma's life. She's too young, too small, Elena said. We need to act soon. Sarah nodded, but her heart ached. Terminating the pregnancy was the medical choice, but it meant stripping Emma of agency over her own body. Laura and Jamie were torn, their faces etched with grief as they weighed the decision. The town's anger grew louder. A local pastor organized a rally, claiming Emma's case was a sign of moral decay. Sarah watched from the hospital window as signs bobbed in the crowd. some targeting Laura and Jamie's relationship. She clenched her fists, determined to protect them. But the pressure was mounting. The hospital board demanded answers, and the media descended, cameras flashing outside. Sarah shielded Emma from the chaos. But the girl's questions grew sharper. "Why is everyone mad at us?" Emma asked, her voice small. Sarah had no easy answer. Clara uncovered a lead, a former factory worker, now in his 60s, had been seen near the site recently. His name was Carl, a recluse who lived on the town's outskirts. Could he be Emma's friend? Sarah's pulse quickened. She and Clara drove to his rundown trailer, where they found him wary but willing to talk. "Kids play there all the time," Carl said, his voice rough. "I tell him to stay away, but they don't listen." His story checked out, but something in his eyes unsettled Sarah. She left with more questions than answers. As the second week ended, Sarah sat with Emma, sketching together. Emma drew a tree with a hollow trunk, a tiny figure inside. "That's me," she said, hiding. Sarah's throat tightened. She was racing against time, not just to solve the medical mystery, but to uncover the truth behind Emma's fear. The factory, the town, the friend, they were pieces of a puzzle, and Sarah was determined to fit them together. The soil samples confirmed Sarah's worst fears. Traces of endocrine-disrupting chemicals lingered in the earth near the factory, potent enough to affect a child's development. Dr. Torres called with more data. Similar cases had been reported in towns with industrial pasts, but none as extreme as Emma's. "This could be groundbreaking," he said, "but we need to prove causation." Sarah agreed, but her focus was Emma. Science could wait. A child couldn't. Emma's sessions with Dr. Lee revealed more fragments of her story. The friend was someone she'd met near the factory, someone who gave her candy and promised to make things better. Emma's descriptions were vague: a tall figure, a low voice, but Sarah's gut told her this wasn't imaginary. She shared the details with Clara, who cross-referenced local records. A name surfaced: Daniel, a drifter in his 30s who'd been spotted around town. He had a history of minor offenses. Nothing violent, but enough to raise red flags. Sarah confronted Laura and Jamie with the new information. Laura's face paled. "Emma never mentioned anyone like that," she said, her voice shaking. Jamie's jaw tightened. If someone touched her, she didn't finish, but her eyes burned with protective fury. Sarah understood their pain, but urged caution. Accusing the wrong person could destroy lives and Emma's trust. The hospital faced mounting pressure. The board demanded a public statement, but Sarah pushed back. "We don't have all the facts," she argued. "Releasing half-truths will hurt Emma more." The board relented, but the media didn't. A local reporter published a story speculating about abuse in Emma's home, naming Laura and Jamie. The article went viral, and the harassment intensified. Jamie found a brick thrown through their window, with a note reading, "Leave our town." Sarah's resolve hardened. She worked with Clara to track down Daniel. They found him at a bar on the edge of Willow Creek. His eyes bloodshot, his demeanor cagey. "I know kids play at the factory," he admitted. "I've seen him, but I don't talk to him." His alibi was shaky, and Sarah noticed a candy wrapper in his pocket, same brand Emma mentioned. She reported him to the police, who took him in for questioning. But without Emma's confirmation, they couldn't hold him. Emma's health took a turn. Her blood pressure spiked, a dangerous sign for a child so young. Dr. Martinez pressed for a decision on the pregnancy. "We can't wait much longer," she said. Laura and Jamie sat with Sarah, their hands clasped tightly. "We want what's best for her," Laura whispered. "But she's so scared." Sarah suggested talking to Emma, giving her a voice in the decision. It was risky, But Sarah believed Emma deserved that much. In a quiet moment, Sarah sat with Emma, explaining in gentle terms what was happening. "Your body is doing something very big," she said. "We need to decide how to keep you safe." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Will it hurt?" she asked. Sarah's heart broke, but she promised. "We'll be with you every step." Emma nodded, clutching her rainbow drawing. For the first time, Sarah saw a flicker of strength in Hera child facing an impossible choice. The town's division grew uglier. A petition circulated to remove Laura and Jamie from custody, claiming their lifestyle endangered Emma. Sarah attended a town hall meeting, her voice steady as she defended them. "This isn't about their love," she said. "It's about a child who needs us to do better." Some clapped. Others jeered. Sarah left feeling the weight of their judgment, but refused to back down. By the third week, a breakthrough came. Emma drew a new Picturia man with a red cap, standing by the factory. "That's him," she whispered. Sarah's pulse raced. Daniel wore a red cap in a photo Clara found. The pieces were falling into place, but the truth was still out of reach. Sarah vowed to protect Emma, no matter the cost. The police brought Daniel in again, this time with Emma's drawing as evidence. Under pressure, he cracked, admitting he'd spoken to Emma at the factory. "I just gave her candy," he insisted, his voice trembling. "I didn't touch her." But his story didn't add updates. Times, and witnesses placed him near the factory too often. Sarah watched the interrogation through a one-way mirror, her stomach twisting. Was he a predator, or just a loner caught in the wrong place? Emma's condition worsened. Her small body struggled under the pregnancy strain, and Dr. Martinez scheduled an emergency procedure to terminate it. Sarah sat with Laura and Jamie as they signed the consent forms, tears streaming down their faces. "We're doing this for her," Jamie said, her voice fierce despite her grief. Laura nodded, clutching Jamie's hand. Sarah admired their strength, their love a beacon in the storm. The procedure was delicate, but Dr. Martinez's team worked with precision. Emma came through, groggy but stable. Sarah stayed by her side, holding her hand as she woke. "You're okay," Sarah whispered, brushing a strand of hair from Emma's face. Emma's lips curved into a faint smile, the first in weeks. But the victory was bittersweet. The pregnancy was gone, but the questions remained: how had it happened? And who was responsible? Clara's investigation took a new turn. Soil tests from the factory site showed alarming levels of chemicals, enough to trigger hormonal changes in children. But Emma's case was unique. Her exposure seemed targeted, as if someone had deliberately led her to the site. Sarah's mind flashed to Daniel's candy wrappers. Had he lured Emma there, knowing the risks? Or was there another layer to this mystery? Sarah dug deeper, visiting the factory again. She found a hidden stash of old chemical barrels, rusted but intact, tucked behind overgrown bushes. Nearby was a child's shoeprint, small, like Emma's. Sarah's heart pounded. Someone had brought Emma here. But why? She called Dr. Torres, who confirmed the chemicals could cause precocious puberty in extreme cases. If she ingested them directly, it could explain everything, he said. Sarah's blood ran cold. Ingestion meant intent. The town's hostility reached a boiling point. Laura and Jamie were barred from a local grocery store, the owner citing community concerns. Sarah confronted him, her voice shaking with anger. "They're victims, not villains," she said. The owner shrugged, unmoved. Sarah realized the fight wasn't just for Emma, it was for a town to see past its prejudice. Emma's recovery was slow but steady. She began drawing again, her sketches brighter, filled with flowers and stars. During one session with Dr. Lee, Emma mentioned the friend again, this time with a detail. He had a scar on his hand. Sarah's mind raced. Daniel had no scars. Was there someone else? She shared the clue with Clara, who widened the search. A new suspect emerged, a former factory foreman, Tom, who'd been fired years ago for safety violations. He had a scar, and he'd been seen near the factory recently. Sarah met with Tom at his home, a cluttered house filled with old factory records. He was defensive, his hands trembling as he spoke. "I didn't do anything to that girl," he said, but his scar was unmistakable. Sarah pressed him about the chemicals, and he admitted to dumping barrels years ago. "I didn't know they'd hurt anyone," he said, his voice hollow. Sarah left, her mind spinning. Was Tom the key, or another dead end? As the fourth week closed, Sarah sat with Emma, watching her draw a sun over a field. "You're strong, Emma," Sarah said. Emma looked up, her eyes bright. "So are you," she replied. Sarah smiled, but the weight of the truth pressed down. The answers were close, but so was the danger. Tom's admission opened a floodgate. Sarah and Clara combed through his old factory records, uncovering memos about illegal chemical dumping. The company had known the risks but buried them to avoid lawsuits. Sarah's anger flared. This wasn't just negligence. It was betrayal of a whole town. But the question of Emma's friend lingered. Tom's scar matched her description, but his alibi was solid. He'd been out of state during key dates. Emma's recovery gave Sarah hope. The girl's laughter returned, soft but real, as she played with crayons in her hospital room. Laura and Jamie visited daily, their love for Emma unshaken despite the town's cruelty. Sarah watched them, marveling at their resilience. But the harassment continued. A slashed tire on Jamie's car, hateful graffiti on their house. Sarah organized a support group for them, connecting them with other queer families in Willow Creek. "You're not alone," she told them. And for the first time, Laura smiled. The police ruled out Daniel, his story backed by witnesses. Sarah's focus shifted to Tom. She and Clara confronted him again, this time with the records. "You knew those chemicals were dangerous," Sarah said, her voice steady. Tom's face crumpled. "I was following orders," he whispered. "They paid me to keep quiet." He denied meeting Emma, but his nervous glances betrayed him. Sarah left with a sinking feeling was hiding something. Dr. Torres sent new findings. The chemicals in Emma's system were ingested, not just absorbed through play. Someone had given her something tainted, possibly in food or drink. Sarah's mind flashed to the candy Emma mentioned. She revisited the factory site, finding more wrappers in the same spot as the barrels. A chill ran through her. This wasn't random. Someone had targeted Emma. The hospital board grew impatient, demanding a resolution. Sarah presented her findings, linking the pregnancy to chemical exposure but urging caution on the human element. "We're close to the truth," she said, "but we need to protect Emma first." The board agreed, but the media frenzy intensified. A national outlet picked up the story, painting Willow Creek as a town of secrets and scandal. Sarah shielded Emma from the headlines, but the girl sensed the chaos. "Why do they hate us?" she asked Laura one night. Laura's answer was a tearful hug. Clara uncovered a new lead, a former factory worker, now deceased, had bragged about fixing kids' health issues with special candy. His son, Mark, still lived in town, a quiet man in his 40s with a scar on his hand. Sarah's heart raced. Mark worked at the local community center, where Emma attended art classes. Had he crossed paths with her? Clara pulled his records, finding complaints about his behavior around children, though nothing proven. Sarah met Mark at the community center, her instincts on high alert. He was polite but guarded, his scarred hand tucked into his pocket. I know Emma, he said. Sweet kid. Loves drawing. His smile felt forced. And Sarah noticed a candy dish on his desk, same brand as the wrappers. She didn't confront him yet, but she alerted the police. They began surveillance, watching Mark's every move. Emma's drawings grew more revealing. One showed a man with a scar, handing her a shiny wrapper. He said it was magic. She told Dr. Lee. Sarah's blood ran cold. The pieces were aligning. But the truth was darker than she'd imagined. She sat with Emma, promising, "We're going to make this right." Emma nodded, her small hand squeezing Sarah's. The girl's trust was a lifeline, but the danger was closing in. As the 5th week ended, Sarah stood outside the hospital, staring at the stars. The town was fracturing, but so was her resolve to uncover the truth. Mark was the key, but proving it would take everything she had. Mark's surveillance led to a breakthrough. The police caught him discarding candy wrappers near the factory, identical to those found at the site. When questioned, he crumbled, admitting he'd given Emma special treats to help her grow strong. He claimed he didn't know the candy was tainted, but his story was flimsy. Tests confirmed the wrappers contained traces of the same chemicals in Emma's system. Sarah's heart sank. This wasn't just negligence. It was deliberate. The hospital prepared to go public with the findings. But Sarah urged caution. "We need to protect Emma's privacy," she told the board. They agreed. But leaks spread, and the media exploded with speculation. Sarah shielded Emma, limiting visitors to Laura and Jamie. The couple was devastated but resolute. "We'll fight for her," Jamie said, her voice steady. Sarah nodded, inspired by their love in the face of hate. Emma's recovery gained strength. She started humming again, a soft tune she'd made up with Laura. Dr. Lee noted progress in their sessions. Emma's drawings were brighter, filled with hope. But the scars of her ordeal lingered. "Will people always be mad?" she asked Sarah one day, her voice small. Sarah knelt beside her. "Some people don't understand," she said. "But your family loves you. And so do I." Emma's smile was a small victory. Clara dug into Mark's past, uncovering a pattern. He'd worked at the community center for years, always around kids, always with candy. Other parents reported unease, but no one had acted. Sarah's anger grew. This could have been stopped. She met with the police, sharing Emma's drawings and the chemical evidence. They built a case, charging Mark with endangerment. But proving intent was harder. Had he known the candy was dangerous? Or was he a pawn in a larger scheme? The factory's history unraveled further. Sarah and Dr. Torres traced the chemicals to a specific batch, dumped under orders from a long-defunct company. The records pointed to a cover-up, with payoffs to workers like Tom and Mark's father. Sarah's mind raced. Was Mark continuing his father's legacy? Or was he a victim of the same system? She confronted him in a police interview, her voice calm but firm. "Why, Emma?" she asked. Mark's eyes darted away. "I just wanted to help," he muttered. She didn't believe him. The town's division deepened. A counter-rally formed, supporting Laura and Jamie, led by queer families and allies. Sarah spoke at the event, her voice ringing out. "This isn't about blame, it's about healing," she said. "Emma needs us to be better." The crowd cheered, but the opposition grew louder, their signs uglier. Sarah worried for Laura and Jamie's safety, arranging for them to stay with a friend in Denver temporarily. Emma's sessions with Dr. Lee revealed one final clue. Mark had told her the candy was from the factory fairies. It was a chilling manipulation, preying on a child's imagination. Sarah's resolve hardened. She worked with the police to finalize the case, ensuring Mark faced justice. But the bigger fight loomed, holding the factory's legacy accountable. She contacted a lawyer, preparing a class action suit for affected families. As the 6th week closed, Sarah sat with Emma, watching her draw a rainbow over a hospital. "That's you," Emma said, pointing to a figure in a white coat. Sarah's eyes stung. The truth was closer, but so was the cost. She hugged Emma, vowing to see this through for her, for Laura and Jamie, for every child betrayed by silence. Mark's trial began, a media circus that drew national attention. Sarah testified, her voice steady as she presented the chemical evidence and Emma's drawings. The courtroom was packed, the air thick with tension. Mark's defense claimed he was unaware of the candy's danger, but the prosecution's case was strong wrappers, chemicals, and Emma's testimony via video, where she described the fairy candy with heartbreaking clarity. The jury's faces softened, and Sarah knew they saw the truth. Emma was home now, surrounded by Laura and Jamie's love. The hospital discharged her with a clean bill of health, but the emotional scars lingered. Sarah visited daily, bringing art supplies to keep Emma's spirits high. One afternoon, Emma drew a picture of 3 women herself, Laura and Jamie holding hands under a tree. "This is us," she said. "Safe." Sarah's heart swelled, but she knew safety was fragile in a town still divided. The class action suit gained traction. Sarah and the lawyer, Maria, uncovered more victims' children with health issues linked to the factory's chemicals. The case exposed decades of negligence, implicating corporate executives who'd long since left Willow Creek. Sarah became a reluctant spokesperson, her face on news channels as she demanded justice. "This isn't just about Emma," she told reporters. "It's about every child we failed." Laura and Jamie faced ongoing harassment, but their support network grew. The rally had sparked a movement, with queer families and allies forming a coalition. Sarah joined their meetings, inspired by their courage. Jamie spoke at one, her voice fierce. "We're not going anywhere," she said. "This is our home, too." The crowd roared, and Sarah saw hope in their unity. Clara's investigation closed the loop on the factory. Records showed Mark's father had been paid to distribute tainted products, disguised as charity. Mark had continued the practice, believing it was harmless. His ignorance wasn't an excuse, but it explained his actions. The court sentenced him to prison, a small justice for Emma. Sarah watched the verdict, relief mixing with sorrow. Mark was a symptom of a larger disease: greed and silence. Emma's drawings became a symbol of resilience. A local gallery displayed them, raising funds for affected families. At the opening, Emma stood shyly beside Laura and Jamie, her rainbow sketches lighting up the room. Sarah gave a speech, her voice thick with emotion. "Emma taught us that love and truth can heal," she said. The crowd applauded, and Emma squeezed Sarah's hand, a silent thank you. The town began to shift. Some residents apologized to Laura and Jamie, their eyes downcast. Others remained stubborn, but the coalition grew stronger, organizing workshops on acceptance. Sarah saw glimmers of Chanhea, neighbor bringing Laura flowers, a pastor preaching inclusion. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As the 7th week ended, Sarah sat with Emma in their backyard, watching fireflies. "You're my hero," Emma said, her voice soft. Sarah laughed, tears in her eyes. "You're mine," she replied. The fight wasn't over. The lawsuit loomed, and the town's wounds were deep, but Sarah felt a spark of hope. Emma's courage, Laura and Jamie's love, and a community slowly learning to listen were worth fighting for. The lawsuit trial began, a David and Goliath battle against the factory's parent company, now a corporate giant. Sarah and Maria presented evidence, chemical reports, victim testimonies, and Emma's story at the heart. The company's lawyers fought dirty, painting Willow Creek as a backward town with no case. But Sarah's testimony was unshakable. "This is about accountability," she said, her voice echoing in the courtroom. "For Emma. For every child." Emma thrived, her laughter filling the house. Laura and Jamie rebuilt their lives. Supported by the coalition, they started a community garden, a place for healing, where Emma planted sunflowers. Sarah joined them on weekends, digging in the dirt, feeling the town's pulse shift. The garden became a symbol growth from pain. Neighbors joined, their hands dirty, their hearts softening. The trial's climax came when Emma's drawings were shown. Jurors wept, seeing her pain and hope in crayon lines. The company settled, agreeing to fund medical care and clean up the factory site. It wasn't full justice, but it was a start. Sarah watched Laura and Jamie hug Emma, tears of relief on their faces. The town cheered the verdict, a rare moment of unity. Sarah reflected on the journey. Emma's case had exposed not just chemicals, but a town's prejudice and a system's failures. Laura and Jamie's love had been tested but held strong, a testament to family. Sarah wrote a letter to Emma, to be opened when she was older. "You changed us," it read. "Your courage showed us what love can do." The gallery held a final exhibit, Emma's art alongside other children's, a celebration of resilience. Sarah stood with Laura, Jamie, and Emma, watching visitors admire the rainbows. A local church, once hostile, sent flowers, a small gesture, but meaningful. Willow Creek wasn't healed, but it was learning. On the last day, Sarah took Emma to the garden, where sunflowers towered. "They're tall. Like you," Emma said, grinning. Sarah laughed, her heart full. The hospital, the town, the world, they'd all been shocked by Emma's story. But it was her strength, and the love around her, that left the deepest mark. Years later, Sarah would remember that summer, the fear, the fight, the love. Emma, now a teenager, would visit, her sketchpad full of dreams. Laura and Jamie, still together, would smile, their hands intertwined. Willow Creek had changed. Not perfectly, but enough. And Sarah knew, as she looked at Emma's sunflowers, that hope could grow from even the darkest soil.